So welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening program. Dhamma discussion tonight. We're going to be following up with where we left off last week. So the last few weeks we've been talking about the practices of meditation, and we covered some of the various practices of the samatha bhavana, the tranquility types of concentration practices. And then last week we started reviewing the Vipassana meditation. And this week we want to continue with that by reviewing the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. I mean, I've talked about this many times already, but you can never really hear it enough until it really sinks in the mind and you start to really observe it in the meditation. Now, as we saw last week, really within the Buddhist system of meditation, all the practices of concentration basically are a preliminary or a prerequisite for developing insight into anicca, dukkha, and anatta, or impermanence, suffering, and no self. So, and the purpose of the concentration is to overcome or suppress the 5 hindrances, because those are the blockages for seeing reality as it is. And whatever meditation subject or concentration object that you use, whether it's the breathing or the body, basically those are, the purpose of it is to ground the attention in the present moment using the breathing and the body. And so this is especially true when we then are developing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, a lot of people talk about Vipassana and they say Vipassana, 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 and, but basically it's the 4 foundations of mindfulness is Vipassana. And all the various techniques, sort of modern techniques, are developed from the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So most people who've been practicing so-called Vipassana meditation, they are following, the more popular one is, developed by S.N. Goenka, which uses the Anapanasati, and then after a few days of Anapanasati, they turn their attention to observing the body sensations and just moving their attention through the body, feeling the changing nature or the impermanence of the body sensations. And the Mahasi technique uses the rise and fall of the abdomen as their initial concentration device, and in order to bring the mind to the body, and then they start directly trying to observe any of the sensory impingements. So they're also tuning into impermanence, but in the Goenka system, or they specifically focus on the impermanence of body sensations, and they stick with that throughout their whole practice. And they don't really emphasize or talk too much about recognizing the impermanence of sounds, thoughts, and other sensations, or the 6 senses. So this is the difference between those 2 methods. I've practiced both of those methods before. And so they both develop the perception of impermanence, but the Goenka system is mainly limited to the body and the body sensations. And And the Mahasi technique is more tuned in, uses the impermanence, but then getting directly to anatta also. And the Mahasi system more closely follows the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, in my opinion. But even so, the Four Foundations of Mindfulness is really what the Buddha taught. He didn't teach you the specific types of Vipassana techniques as such. So I wanted to go into the mindfulness of the body from the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. And as I've mentioned before, well, it starts with the breathing, of course. And so, and it starts with actually the posture. So the Buddha recommends a person to sit down in a posture and to keep the back straight, to cross the legs, be able to sit comfortably in a cross-legged position, and to keep the back straight. Now, of course, in the Buddha's day, everybody sat in the cross-legged position because there weren't many chairs in most homes or other places, in India, 2,500 years ago. So, everybody could sit cross-legged easy enough. But nowadays, of course, a lot of people cannot sit in the cross-legged position like half lotus or full lotus because of, perhaps previous injuries or some other reasons. But anyway, keeping the back straight is what's important. And why is the keeping the back straight important? Because our mind operates through the vibrations coming through the senses. In our whole world of perception, and our idea of experience of the world is basically based on what we are hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. So if you're slouched or half asleep, then you're really not noticing many things very clearly coming through the senses, and the mind will be kind of dull. So it helps to overcome the hindrances also by learning how to sit straight. But anyway, once you're sitting straight, then the mindfulness of the breathing. And we've already, we do this every week. And the breathing acts as a bridge to connect the external world to the inner world. So normally our mind is, before we sit to meditate, we've been doing lots of things, maybe going here and there, and our attention was mostly, what am I doing in the next few minutes, and going here and there, doing a lot of things. So when you sit down and then you focus the attention on the breathing, then that helps to disengage the attention from the external world and to reach the body. And especially if you are, there's two main practices of practicing the mindfulness of breathing. One of the traditional standard practices of the samatha meditation is you focus the attention to try to feel the touch of air as it either touches the upper lip or the nose, or in the nostrils, to focus on that subtle sensation. And you use that as a concentration point to tie the attention to. And that can develop a very deep level of concentration, but it's not easy. And not everybody can successfully keep their attention there because it's a very subtle sensation. Now, later on, when the mind has already gotten relaxed and calm and centered, and not so many hindrances, then if you focus the attention there, you can gain a deeper level of concentration. But the other method, and the one that I usually recommend people to do because it's more compatible with the following mindfulness of the body and using the body as the anchor to the present moment in observing the various sensations coming through the body, not only the breathing, but sensations all over the body. So by focusing the attention, feeling the expanding and contracting movements of the abdomen or the rib cage or the chest, as I mentioned. And of course, you all know that I recommend doing some deep, slow breathing at the beginning to really feel that expanding of the bottom, middle, and top of the chest. Now, of course, the Satipatthana Sutta doesn't mention like that, but it helps to center the mind more in the middle of the body rather than on a tiny little point in the nostrils where you lose the awareness of the body. So keeping the attention on the expanding and contracting sensations of the abdomen or rib cage or the chest. You don't focus on any one point. You try to notice how even in one breath, you can feel different sensations. Like the first part of the breath, you might feel some sensation in the lower lung or the abdomen. The second part, especially if you're doing deep breathing, you might feel the sensation in the rib cage and then in the upper chest. But by just keeping the attention focused there in the middle, you can notice actually several little sensations, especially if your breath is a little bit longer. So anyway, by developing that concentration on the breathing, that means knowing when you're breathing in and knowing when you're breathing out. And you know it by feeling. So the first instructions of the the breathing awareness is that just knowing. Knowing is that alert state of mind. It's not kind of slouchy or drowsy. It's very alert, what the Buddha called up front. Establishing mindfulness up front means this kind of alert awareness. It's, feeling the body right there in front with the face and the breathing, and then using that as a focus to in the present moment. Now, again, one of the main purpose of this, because the breathing in the body is always in the present moment, and it's our mind that's always going between the past and the future, and so and in the present moment, awareness is the natural state of our consciousness whenever it's not doing something, doing something. So it's naturally in a state of just the present moment. So by focusing on the breathing, it helps to bring the attention to that. And then also knowing when the breath is long and knowing when the breath is short. That knowing is a more alert state of mind. You're not just getting in a hypnotic state by just feeling one little sensation. You're using discriminative understanding. You're understanding this is a long breath or this is a short breath, and sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. Each breath may be different, so that keeps the mind alert and awake. If you just say breathing in, breathing out, it could be like a metronome, and but when you're specifically kind of understand how each breath is kind of different. Sometimes it's long, short. Sometimes you feel it in the abdomen. Sometimes you feel it in the rib cage. That keeps the mind more alert, and that's really what the Vipassana method is developing: an alert state of mind rather than just a pinpointed concentration point. So that's the difference between just developing one pointed concentration on a particular point and developing the awareness, the present moment awareness, a little bit more open state of awareness. And because that is going to be there then when you move into the body. So one is a preparation for the next one. And so you can gain by doing that mindfulness of the breathing. And then after knowing the in breaths and the out breaths, then tranquilizing the breath. So then the breath becomes more tranquil. This means you're getting more concentrated. Of course, even at the same time, when you're doing that, you have to be alert for hindrances. And so to apply the appropriate methods for overcoming the 5 hindrances. And until you reach a level of what is called either momentary concentration or access concentration, or you could even attain the first jhana through developing this mindfulness of the breathing. But for Vipassana meditation, what is called momentary concentration is the more sort of practical or functional type of concentration, that is not sticking on one object, but it's able to notice each different sensation as it comes and goes, but without being distracted, because it's as the hindrances have been weakened. And so, and then even while feeling the breathing, once you reach that momentary concentration, that breath stays in the mind more and more. And you can see, the beginning, the middle, and the end of each breath. That means you can feel 2 or 3 different little, or 4 or 5 or more little sensations of just on one in breath. You can feel, several different little sensations that just kind of arise and vanish. And then also on the out breath. So that's called momentary concentration, the ability to see these different sensations, which are moments of consciousness coming and going. And then while you're doing that, then you open up to feel other parts of the body too. Even while you're feeling the breathing, you might notice a little sensation here, a sensation over here, maybe an ache or pain somewhere else in the body, some little prickly sensations. And as you're able to hold the mind there, it's still connected with the breathing, but you're starting to very effortlessly, without much effort, just to automatically notice other sensations coming and going in the background. And that's where the Goenka method has you specifically do that by starting at the top of the head and moving the attention down sort of inch by inch, trying to feel the different sensations in different places. Now that can also be done as a preliminary state, or you can just hold the attention in a more open state and just feel them as they randomly come in and out. Now, people that have difficulty, feeling more of the body or feeling the body, then limiting their attention to certain parts as they move the attention down, as I have you do also in our meditations. But the idea eventually is to feel the whole body. And then apart from, you understand that this breathing is happening within the larger body. So the 4 postures are the next stage of that Vipassana meditation, the mindfulness of the body. And when you're sitting, you know that you're sitting, and you know that you're sitting because you're feeling it. You can feel the outline of the body, and you feel the head, the hands, the feet, clothing touching the skin. All those different sensations are included in this momentary concentration, the ability to notice and feel, and then to be able to kind of establish that sort of outline of the sitting body, so that you know that the body is sitting, but it's also breathing. So breathing and sitting. And then the impermanence within that body. Then that's where you develop the momentary concentration even more, where you can feel, basically hundreds of sensations arising and vanishing even in the space of just a few seconds, one could, if one is very concentrated. So that's called a momentary concentration, but it's also a very deep level of concentration. A lot of people think, oh, that's a superficial. No, it's not superficial. It's very, very powerful and very deep. But that's where that's the beginning of the Vipassana. Is Vipassana meditation, the word, means seeing things as they are. So it's made up of two words, pasana, which means seeing, not necessarily with the fleshy eye, but experiencing, or with the seeing with the eye of Dhamma. And the V is a prefix. It means to see things in their parts rather than seeing things as a whole. You see things made up of their individual little parts. So instead of seeing this a whole body, you're experiencing it as just millions of, or for what it is, right? Cells, billions of cells that are always moving and vibrating, keeping this body alive. And that is the reality of it. And also we develop our consciousness, that the consciousness to be able to, the arising and vanishing of each of those moments is also seeing the consciousness is arising and vanishing. So it develops a very powerful form of concentrated awareness. So anyway, there are other aspects of the body contemplation, but I'll go on and I'll probably talk more about those in the next weeks, but I'll mention one of the other ones. So anyway, you can also examine the body as 32 parts. So as you're noticing that, there are all these parts of the body, hair, the head, skin, teeth, hair of the body, and all the various organs, they're always changing because all these sensations are simply sensations occurring in all those parts of the body. And they're undergoing the process of, aging and death, and they're subject to change. But the body is comprised of these various body parts, and they're all subject to, breaking up, getting problems, and then aging and death. So it's a way of kind of just contemplating that. Helps you to stay concentrated in the body and get some kind of detachment to it. And you understand how this body came to be because of the conception. And then the body started as a one-cell organism in the womb, and then it grew into a multi-billion cell organism, and it was born in 9 months. And you have to keep feeding it, and then it oozes out all these kind of things. And so you develop the attitude of seeing this body as simply a vehicle for our mind, and to work out. We came into this life to work out our karma, and hopefully to progress on the path of spiritual understanding, or at least to minimize the amount of suffering in our life. So these kind of contemplations are also part of contemplation of the body. But it develops two things. It helps to deepen your concentration, and it helps to gain a detachment to the body, not narcissistically clinging or wanting this body to use it as for power over others, or so many different reasons. But knowing also to what keeps this body in a healthy state. So we have to live in this body until we die. And so developing that awareness of the postures helps to keep the mind in the present moment. So not only when you're sitting, but when you stand up, you're aware that you're standing. When you're walking, you do walking meditation. And all of that is to help keep the mind in the present moment. So it's not thinking about the past and the future connected with so many all the other sensory stimulations. So basically the body is an anchor to keep the mind in the present moment. And then that sets the stage for then being able to observe the feelings or the Vedana, and then the thoughts themselves, the mental formations which are perceptions and ideas and urges and thoughts and reactions. You're able to watch these things without getting carried away in them. So that's why mindfulness of the body comes at the beginning, because that acts as the anchor, and it helps to hold the attention in the present moment, because that's where all these other things are occurring. The sensations and all the other senses are coming through this breathing body. That's why developing that awareness of just sitting and breathing, it's like getting into the balcony seat of the movie theater, and then it's watching the movie of sensations, perceptions, volitional activities in the consciousness of the aggregates coming and going, that we'll talk more about next week. But I just wanted to mention this mindfulness of the body is really the Buddhist more detailed method of practicing Vipassana. It is not just one technique that you learn somewhere, but it involves several different developments. One leads to another. So the mindfulness of the breathing helps to get the mind, reconnected to the body in the present moment, and then you start to feel the body. You use the body itself, feel the different sensations. That helps to gain a deeper level of concentration. And then preparing the mind then for being able to open up to the whole field of impermanence and the other senses. And this is what the Goenka system lacks, is they stop basically with the mindfulness of the impermanence of the body sensations. So it's not really a full and complete method of Vipassana as taught by the Buddha, even though those people might say otherwise. But anyway, I'm not going to get into those differences. So anyway, that's what I wanted to mention. Now, if anybody has any questions about specifically this mindfulness of the body and the beginning of the Vipassana practice, then I would invite you to, I didn't receive any emails about it, but if anybody has any questions and they would like to raise their yellow hand there, or just maybe Prashant can find somebody, or is there any, nothing is in the chat box yet, but if somebody wants to write the question down. Are there any yellow hands up, Prashant?
Not yet, Bhante.
I mean, many of you have been listening to these, the Zoom sessions for quite a while. You would have heard me speak on the subject many times already. But I see a yellow hand up there. You see that?
Yes, Bhante. Yeah. Yes, God.
Hello, Bhante. This is Bikram.
Oh, Bikram. Oh, okay.
So if you feel the sensations in the body, almost like the vibration of the cells in our body, but the feeling tone that comes with it is not pleasant, what do we do then?
Uh, well, those feelings, of course, that you're feeling, they can be pleasant feelings and painful feelings. And because of different body types and other conditions, some people might have a more preponderance of painful feelings rather than pleasant feelings. And we have to understand that these are just being produced within the body because of the various causes and conditions. Maybe it's, there's a reason for everything, and it could be psychological or it could be physical. If the muscles and joints are stiff or there's some other types of sicknesses, then these are all going to produce discomforts and painful feelings. And it's because we identify so much with the body, it's difficult to detach our mind from them. That's why first you have to try to develop in fact, more concentration. The more concentration you have, the more you've been able to develop the mindfulness of the breathing and to develop a deeper level of concentration. That helps to minimize the painful feelings also. But there's always going to be some pain and discomfort. And that's why these other aspects of mindfulness of the body, like, the 32 body parts and seeing that, this is the nature of the body. It's changing and undergoing the process of, aging and decay and have that detachment to it. We identify the body as me or mine, and that's why it tends to bother us more. But when we just see it, we see this body as we're just using it temporarily, to carry on our life. And it's sort of like, you're just renting, like you're a renter in a house. A lot of people that rent a house, they think, well, the landlord's going to fix the things, and so they don't care too much about, keeping the house, in a good condition because they think they don't own it. So that's part of the mindfulness of the body, is to develop this idea that this body is not me, not mine. It was just produced from past karma. The mother and the father actually produced it. And this mind just came to inhabit it and to work out the karma in this life. And so we have to develop this detached awareness. Is very important, because that will keep the sting of the painful sensations from, really overwhelming you. Even though they'll still be painful, we're kind of trying to see it as an impersonal thing. So just as your friend can tell you, oh, I have so many pains in my body, but you may not have many pains, but you can't feel their pains, although you can hear about their pains, but you can't actually feel them. So in developing this detached sense of this body being not mine or myself, and seeing it as just a impersonal organism, then that will help to have that same viewpoint toward the pain. When the pain comes up, then this pain belongs to this body that is also not yours. So it helps to minimize the mental reaction. And that's about the only way you can do it. And you just have to, and again, people that have so many more pains and chronic conditions, it's not going to be easy. So there's so many things involved in pains of our body. And, doctors can tell you all that. I see another yellow hand there.
Hi, Bhante, that's my yellow hand.
Yeah.
I have a question, because you mentioned the body, and there's been a lot of thought behind the body and how it impacts the mind that's within it. we inherit the body and its diseases and its ailments as well. So how should we reflect upon that? Do we inherit a body with illnesses and maladies because of our past karma? And do we carry anything from those bodies with us? In other words, those bodies are inherited from all the other bodies before them. So we inherit all those genes in our current body. What is our obligation to the body in that regard? How do we deal with those maladies? How should we see them? As part of our karma or something else? I'm sorry.
I mean, we're born to certain parents, and they may have genes for certain illnesses and so on, that maybe from our past lives and the karma and so on that we've cultivated. But everybody has genes, but they can be turned on or off. And so it depends. We inherit certain conditions, yes, but in some people they'll be turned on or off, and that can be due to things that you're doing in this life that can attribute to that. So, everybody has genes for almost every kind of illness that maybe we've accumulated through the evolution, but what you're doing in this life can cause the ability to either keep them on or off. We can see that even in identical twins that have these identical genes, that one of them may be experiencing the full effects of that, the other one may be not. So this is where we shouldn't think everything is predestined. That is a bad way of seeing it. Yes, we may bring a lot of karma with us, but we shouldn't say that's just my fate. It's the way you live in this life, the way you speak and live, and how you take care of the body and take care of it, knowing that it's a valuable thing to have and not to abuse it. We can hopefully keep some of those diseases, genes for diseases and other problems turned off, so that we don't have to experience it. There are a lot of people that go through life without experiencing a lot of major diseases and so on. But if you went back in their DNA, you might see that their past relatives had all those things. But in this life, people may not get them, and that is due to what we're doing in this life too. We shouldn't forget that. And that's why we practice Dhamma. That's the whole reason why we're practicing Sila and, the right speech and actions, because all these things, negative actions, greed, hatred, and delusion, can affect turning on or those genes for certain diseases or illnesses and so on, like that.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Is there a chat in there, Prashant? Oh,
Check on it.
okay. Okay, friends. So, any last questions? Okay, if not, then we'll take a few minutes break, and then we'll come back and do some yoga stretches, and then sit down and get into the body. Okay?